Stampers, it's Linda Schmidt with Stampin' with the Hounds. Thanks for joining me today. Happy Mother's Day to all of you out there, and happy Dog Mom Days for those of you who are dog moms like me. Today I am going to be showing you a really fun fold. It's been kind of popular and it's called there's different variations on it. This one is kind of what is like a mini fan fold. This one is an A2 size, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I am only, a lot of the ones that I saw, they were doing multiple layers of cardstock and DSP on it. And I just wanted to keep it a little bit more simpler. So I'm just doing the one layer of designer series paper and then your cardstock to make the two little fan pieces. So these are just some of the samples that I've done recently. This is kind of like my, I get into a fold and then I like crank them out. You know, doing different, I was trying different papers, different stamp sets, because now we've got the 25-26 Stampin' Up annual catalog that just launched last week. So there is a bunch of stuff online as well, so make sure you check those out, because some of the things that I am featuring today are some of the online exclusives, which include the Scenic, oops, sorry, here we go. Scenic Adventures. And if you know me, I love anything with mountains and pine trees. Like, I can never have enough stamp sets that have mountains and pine trees. But so this one has the stamp set and then the coordinating dies. And these make a scenery. They're not really cutting out the stamped images. They're just cutting, and I'll kind of, I've got all the die cuts that I'll kind of show you how they cut and stuff. So we'll be using that one today. And then another one that I think goes really well with that Scenic Adventures is this Wooded Acres. This is another online exclusive. It's just two little photopolymer stamps, but they're just nice fillers. And that's kind of what I used along here on those pine trees. That's from this one here, from that stamp set. And then the other ones that I'm featuring are just some, this is out of the new annual catalog. It's a good word set. This one is the right words, and so it's kind of got some sympathy. It has birthday, thinking of you, just a nice variety, and I really like the fonts. I think that they did a really nice job. And then my other two things that I love to use together are the Spotlight dies and of course the Stylish Shapes. So if you don't have these in your inventory, these are staples. These are in the annual catalog as well. All right, so I'm going to show you some of the samples. Like I said, so this is the mini fan fold. And so this one I did, what I love is we did carry over a lot of our designer series paper. So this one was actually from the Splendid Autumn paper that was like in last fall's mini catalog, and they carried it over. It's just a really pretty background. And so that's kind of what I used on this one. And then the piece that you get a leftover piece, so I've just been decorating that on the inside of the card. So that's that one. And I did from the stamp set, so these are actually clouds, but I made them into a mountain. I was like, well, you know, I thought they were mountains at first, and then I saw a card, I'm like, oh yeah, they are clouds, but I made them into a mountain. So you can do, you know, versatile. And then I just did a little sponging to make my sun, and then the kind of that sunrise sky on there. So that's that one. And this was like one of my first ones. I always use retired paper and stuff when I'm practicing. So this is one of my very first ones. I used a current set, and this is a current online exclusive. This is that Blooming Phrases, which is kind of a fun stamp set, and you can make your own little bouquets and stuff with those flowers. And then this is the our butterfly that carried over. So it's kind of a fun one, nice and bright and cheery on that one. And then another one, this was another one of my earlier ones. This is Thoughtful Journey, that designer series paper carried over. And then this is our new Sunrise Sailing, which I think is probably one of our most popular online exclusive stamp sets right now. There are so many samples of it out on Pinterest right now. So this is all this paper kind of carried over. And then this one, I kind of continued that boat on the inside. So it kind of looks like they're all sailing together. So I thought this is really a fun one. And then this one I needed a guy card. So this is actually going to one of my coworkers. I just had used some old retired paper on it. So, but there's that. And then these are all featuring our new designer series paper, which is called Beautiful Gallery. And at first when I saw this, I was kind of like, I don't know. It's a little, I don't know. I wasn't in love with it. But then, yeah, I'm like, you know what? I do need some new papers. So it is pretty. It grew on me. So it's got some really pretty, you know, it's like you hate to cut it because it's so pretty. But you can actually like just find like a little frame and you can frame it. You can use your entire designer series paper as like, you know, a work of art and stuff. But these are just, it's got nice sceneries, which, so I'm like, okay, these are really pretty. And then usually the back has either a pattern or something simple on it. So it's very, very pretty. I mean, it grew on me. So I'm glad I got it. And that's kind of a fun one on it. So, and this is what we're going to be using today. We're using that paper on there. And then this is one I used on one of my samples. But yeah, so it's kind of, and I use that on one of my samples too. So I do like it. And it has a lot of the, some of our in colors, that cloud cover, and it has, was it the peach pie? Maybe it was just the cloud cover. Oh, Secret Sea. That's the other in color that's in there too. That's featured. So really pretty. So we'll be using that today. And then these are just some of the other samples. So this one I did the Timeless tree, or Twisted in Time, sorry. This is another online exclusive tree set. And this one I kind of did more of it as a sympathy card. And then there's my other sailboat. So that's using that paper. And then this, I took the dies and I die cut the paper, the designer series paper. So then I used my birds on the inside. And then you can just see the Secret Sea behind it. And then I just put a little bit of Wink of Stella in there. So that's another kind of a neat idea that you can do on that one. So pretty. Yeah, this is like, I love that little sailboat. And then this one, so this stamp set, it's still, it retired, but it's still in our last chance. It is the Textured Floral, and I use this a lot. So if you don't have this set, so it's got the stamp set and then the dies that go with it. It's just a really nice floral set, and it has some good sayings in it. So, and it coordinates with this paper too. So that one I stamped it in the Basic Beige ink, and then I did a little bit of pecan pie on there. And then I did my designer series paper for the inside. So you can do that instead of cardstock too. So it kind of coordinates. And then this is one of our new folders. I don't think I've got it handy. It is the, Pressed Flowers. So this is a new 6x6 folder. And this is not a 3D one. So it's just a regular folder. So it's one of our thinner ones. That's another really pretty one to do just as a subtle background in there. And then my last ones, we're kind of doing like a variation of this mountain scene one today. This one I did a little bit of embossing. And then here I'm doing the die cuts from the Scenic Adventure. So I did all of that with the die cutting from my mountain scene. And then the inside, again, I carried through the paper that's left over. There, so really fun. Like I said, the ideas are endless on what you can do with this fold. And like I said, there's a lot of variations, you know, on Pinterest and stuff that I've seen and on YouTube. But we're going to get started. So the supplies that you're going to need are, you're going to need your card base, which is just your standard 5.5 by 8.5. And we're just going to score that in half, just like a normal A2 card. Okay, so I'll just be scored right at 4 1/4. And this is that new cloud cover cardstock. So it's hard to pick up on camera. It's got a little bit of a blue. It's lighter than what we had a few years ago. Oh my gosh, what was that one called? It was a really pretty, Seaside Spray. It's a little bit lighter than that Seaside Spray we had a few years ago. It's just a really nice, it's a very pretty neutral color. But the only thing is this one, the ink pad, they were having some issues. So you can get it, but the ink pad, it may fade the color. So it may not always match your cardstock on it. So it's kind of like you know, you buy it and you have to see what it is. But I didn't get it. But I did get the marker, and the marker does work and stuff. So, but that's the cloud cover. So that's just your standard base. Then you're going to need, and this is where you can either do 2 pieces, because I like to have the designer series paper on the inside as well. So I'm doing 2 pieces of designer series paper that's 4 by 5 1/4. So this one is going to be my front. And then I'm doing from that beautiful gallery paper, I'm doing this kind of pattern on this one. So again, these are both 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm just doing 2 of them. Then on this one, this is one that we're going to end up cutting. So I'll go over the cutting instructions for that. Then you're going to need another sheet of cardstock. And this, you can either have it be, I think, do I have? Oh yeah, here, this is when I did 2 different ones. You can either do a different color cardstock, because this is the one we're cutting. So here I did Pretty Peacock. Or you can keep the same color as your card base. It's totally optional how you want to do that. So I cut both of them because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. So I've got Secret Sea and Cloud Cover, depending on what one I use. But either way, you just need one of them, and that's 1 1/2 by 5 1/2. And then we're going to cut this in half diagonally. And then you're going to need another sheet of pattern paper, and this is a different pattern than what you have here. Or if you want to keep it the same, you can. But this one I just did, again, it's the same as my inside. So this one is going to be 1 1/4 by 5, and again, we're going to cut this piece in half diagonally. So we're going to get started with the scoring and the measuring to kind of explain how we cut our diagonal. So you're going to need your paper trimmer and a ruler and a pencil. All right, so first of all, we know we're just going to score our card in half. So this was 8 1/2 inches long, so we're going to score at 4 1/4. And then we will just fold this in half. All right, so now on our front, we want to make a mark on the 4 1/4 inch side. We're going to make a mark at 2 1/2. And then we are going to cut from that 2 1/2 inch mark down to the corner of your right-hand side of the card. So all of this is going to get cut off. So we're going to open up our card. I'm just going to move this over here just a little bit. Just make a little room so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so now what we want to do is where your cutting groove is on your paper trimmer. I have to be able to see what I'm doing and then make sure you see the whole card here. Okay, so where that 2 1/2 inch mark is, I'm putting that right into the cutting groove. And then I want to make sure my point on my lower right hand side of my card is right in that cutting the cutting groove. So that's lined up, that's lined up. And with this point, you don't want to start your blade here and go up because you will actually catch the cardstock. So you'll want to start at the top and then cut down, and then just make sure you're holding your paper. And I'm just going to erase or at least get some of this pencil mark off of there so I'm not cutting that lead into my paper. Okay, so I'm going to move my paper blade or the cutting blade up and make sure I'm still all aligned, and then we're just going to cut. You're going to hold on to this piece because this moves to here, and you don't need to trim this one. This will just be as is. So we're just going to hold on to that piece for now. I'm just going to set it aside. So that is then, there's our angle. Okay, so we'll set those pieces aside. Now we're going to take our pattern paper. That's for our front. So this one was 4 by 5 1/4. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to measure over, and this is the side you want up. So we're going to measure over at 2 1/2 again and make a mark. And then same thing, you're going to cut this diagonally. So making sure your 2 1/2 inch tick mark is in that cutting groove, and the corner of your designer series paper is in the cutting groove as well. And again, you want to start kind of more on that straighter edge, and then hold your paper and cut down. And then now this gets layered onto your card base, like so. Then the piece that we cut off, this is going to go here, but now this piece that we cut off from here, we do need to trim it because it's too big. Like you can't, it's like almost the same size as, I mean, there's a real faint border. So what I like to do, so we've got our right triangle, I like to actually flip this over, and I'm going to cut off, and I've done 3/8 and I've done a 1/2 inch. Sometimes it's like in between the two of those, but we're going to take off a 1/2 inch. So we're lining up our straight part of our triangle, the straight line, and I'm right on the 1/2 inch mark on my paper trimmer here, and then I'm just going to trim off. Oh wait, sorry, I'm just doing my, oh, sorry. Do this on the designer series paper. So I'm flipping it over, 1/2 inch. Oh my gosh, I'm glad I caught myself there. There's a 1/4, there's a 3/8. So we'll take off a 1/2 inch. And then this, you just discard. Flip that back over. And now this then fits on your triangle. So then we put our card together. This will get lined up here, like so. Okay? Now, we're going to take our other pieces. So this was our cardstock that is 1 1/2 by 5 1/2. And this can either be the same color as the base, or you can do a different color. But I think because my pattern paper is pretty light, I think I'm going to do my second triangle. I'm going to do Secret C. Yeah, I'm going to make it darker. I'm going to switch it. So I'm going to hold that, set that aside for now. Okay, so this was 1 1/2 by 5 1/2. Again, we're going to cut diagonally from the top left-hand corner down to the bottom right-hand corner. So you'll put that into your paper trimmer, so point to point. And again here, because we're starting, our points are both, you know, you don't want to start your blade at the top or the bottom because you'll catch. So start cutting in the middle, go down, and I'm kind of lifting it up, and then I'm going to close up. Now, this piece you keep. The bottom left one, set it aside. We'll use that on the inside of the card. So now this then becomes the piece that sits on top of here. Okay, so now we're going to take that designer series paper. So the cardstock was 1 1/2 by 5 1/2. The pattern paper needs to be 1 1/4 by 5. Same thing, we're going to cut from the top left down to the top right. So point to point, and again, start your blade in the middle, press up, lift, kind of come down, and then press down. Again, you're going to keep the top right, the bottom left. We're going to put that aside. That's just going to go on the inside of the card. Now this piece, you shouldn't need to trim. There you go. That one fits right on there. And that's it. I mean, super fun and easy. I love it. I love a good, easy, fun fold. All right, so now let's go ahead and assemble and decorate. My favorite part. Okay, let's put this aside. Yeah, we have, oh, yesterday was just beautiful. It was my kind of weather. 72, sunny, a little bit of a breeze. Ugh, I just loved it. Today, ugh, 90, hot. And I'm pasty white girl, from German blood. I sunburn so easily. And then I get that awful sun rash, which isn't fun. So I have to limit my time outside so I'm not a fried, sunburnt girl. All right, so we're going to go ahead and attach this onto the front. And then sometimes, if you find that your designer series paper isn't, the angles quite aren't right, you can trim it a little bit. I'm wondering where I put that. I had taken like a little template. I think I had like a window sheet that I was kind of using as a kind of a cheat sheet sometimes, but I don't know where I stuck it. All right, so that one's on there. I'm going to go ahead, and this was my inside. You can do cardstock or DSP. This is just 4 by 5 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and attach that on my inside of my card. Isn't that pretty? Oh, this paper is. See, it grew on me. All right, so we're going to take our larger triangle and attach that to our cardstock. All right, and then this one, same thing. It's down. Oh well. Yeah, this tape is like super strong, so once it's down, it's down. Okay, now to align this, you want to make sure that these points don't go outside the edge of your card, because otherwise it won't fit in the envelope. So I just kind of make sure that my points are flush with, the sides of my card. And then you just want to make sure that this triangle is like right into that corner. And then I just do a little spot check. So I'm just gonna, oops, and I just shifted it. Okay, I'm gonna hold this. Well, what is my problem today? Hold it open, and then I just take a pencil mark just so that I know how far down to put my adhesive. So from here on down, I'm going to do my adhesive, and then I can erase that pencil line. Okay, so again, making sure your points aren't going off the edge of your card here on the top. And then that looks good. And then this one, you can either just attach it straight on, or you can pop it up with a dimensional. And I I do like to pop it up a little bit with the dimensional. So because this is such a really fine point, I actually take my dimensionals, and I kind of like the mini ones because they've got this like thicker border. I'm actually just going to cut like a triangle so that I can get my point all the way down on my cardstock here. Just so that doesn't catch and lift up. And then same thing here. Now this one's going to go up a little bit, but again, you don't want to go out, you know, because it has to stay within that 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 so that it doesn't, so it fits in your envelope. So again, I know that I don't want to go, basically, I don't want to go no adhesive here. So I can just put dimensionals from here on down. All right. So again, I just line this up, making sure my edges aren't going beyond the card. And then I could probably do, I'm going to do one more dimensional in there just to hold that down better so it's not flopping around on me. Yeah, I want to do my planting. Well, here in Minnesota, I mean, spring is, oh my gosh, it's always late, and of course now we go into straight summer, but a lot of my plants are just still starting to come up. So, you know, I'm sure the garden stores are like crazy busy today because everybody's gonna be like, oh my god, I got a plant. And I still got stuff coming up. So I got to see what survived the winter. All right, let's get a little bit of adhesive on there. Okay, all right. So that is basically that fun fold, the mini fan fold. Super fun. So now I like to decorate, you know, with my focal point, you know, with something. Otherwise you can just leave it as is. You can put a little saying here and call it good. But I wanted to show you some of on this Scenic Adventure die set, how these pieces cut, so you kind of understand how they work. Because they don't cut out like the shape is kind of what I was saying. So for example, this die here, it cuts out the moon and then it gives you a little bit of texture for like the stars on there. So that's that little piece. And then the rest of these, so here's like, you know, what I call like the lake, or it can be your ground cover. It's not cutting it out, it's just texturizing it. So again, if you want to use it like how I did my scenery build, where's the one that I did? Oh yeah, this one. On this one, I'm using, you know, the stylish shapes, and I think this was like 2.5. Yeah, it's like a 2.5 inch circle, which I found kind of worked really well with all of these. So basically what I did is I would cut out all of my circles in the colors that I wanted to do. And then I'm just laying the dies on them. And then, you know, it's like cutting out that circle. So for example, here's the trees. So again, it's not cutting. I mean, it's kind of doing this so that you can tuck something behind it. You know, you can do like a bendy card, which is kind of fun. Otherwise, you're going to have to manually cut this or use like a die. So this is where I would lay the circle die on top, and then I would be cutting out to get my trees, if that makes sense. So you're just using that circle die to cut them out. So that's the trees. That's kind of just cutting these borders. It does the water. Same thing with the mountain. It's just cutting out this part, and then you would have to trim this with scissors, or how I'm doing it, I'm taking the circle die and cutting that out, or I freehand it, you know, either way, depending on how I want that aligned. And then same thing with these little flowers and the kind of like the grass. That's also just kind of just cutting that part, and then you would have to trim the other part off if you want to do it. So just that's how those kind of cut. So again, what I did, just to save on time, where did my, so these were the, and this is just because it worked on this card for the shape. So I did this 2.5 inch one. So if I would take my mountains to use this, then I would just line this up and run it through my die cut, and then I would have my mountains die cut out like so. And then I do the same thing, you know, I would have for my meadow die cut this, and I kind of shift it up a little bit because depending on how much space I want down below, you know, I just kind of adjust that. And then the other part, you know, is just tossed, you know, used, set aside. And then that would be that one. And then same thing with the trees, the pine trees. Again, I just kind of put my die cut on, die cut it out. And then depending on how I want to layer it, you know, something like that. So that's kind of how I'm building the scenery on there. So that's how you die cut it. And then I was going to do, I think for my card today, I think I'm just going to do some stamping, showing you how you can use those clouds to make a mountain on there. So I think for this one, I think I've got my other pieces. These are all just extra. So that Stylish Shapes is definitely it's a must-have if you don't already have it. So, and then that was your Scenic Adventure dies. All right, so we are going to use some of the stamps from here. Get some of my stuff out of the way. So I think on here, I was going to I had the Lost Lagoon, but now I'm thinking I probably don't want to have, oh, maybe that'll be okay. All right, so we are going to take, and this is the Basic Beige cardstock that I'm using. So I'm going to take that cloud, and actually on this one, I am going to use it as a cloud. Now that I take that back, I am using it as a cloud. All right, so I think I want to do first so what we're doing is I'm basically making this on it. So I'm going to do my grass, which is using this image. It can be used for grass or water, either one. And I'm going to first start so that the kind of the straighter edge is at the top, and then kind of where the little dots and stuff, that's kind of at the bottom. So I'm going to use Mossy Meadow, and I just want to make sure I am stamping somewhat straight. So I'm going to stamp it once, and then I'm going to lift up and stamp again, and shift it down a little bit, just to fill in that space. All right, so that's that. And then wipe up any of your excess because I stamped off of the paper a little bit. So that was the Mossy Meadow. And then I'm going to do some of the pine trees. And I'm going to do Lost Lagoon and Pretty Peacock. So these are the two different pine trees. And then there's one more that I didn't use, but it was a little too tall. So I'm going to first do the larger one in Lost Lagoon. And I'm just just going to stamp this kind of off to the left here. And then the skinnier one I'm going to do in Pretty Peacock. And I'm going to put this one up a little bit higher and overlap onto my first pine tree. And then my clouds, I'm going to do those in the basic beige as well. So again, this is where I kind of, on my other one, I did it as a mountain. And then I masked this part off so that I could do my sponging. But so they can be clouds, or you can make it into a mountain. Either way works. So basic beige is a pretty light color, so I'm just going to stamp this right on top, like so. So it's very subtle. And then we'll do our flowers just in black. And then this I am going to color with our Stampin' Up markers. So I'm using the new in color. This is the Darling Duckling. And then I'm using another new color, Timid Tiger. It's a great orange. And then the other one is Cloud Cover, which is another in color this year. And then this is just from our brights. I just did, I think it's Lemon Lime Twist. I just grabbed one, so for a green. So I'm just going to do a little bit of my flowers, the stems, and the leaves in the Lemon Lime Twist. And then I will just kind of take the brush tip and then just kind of do a little scribble just to kind of give it some dimension. And then we're going to do Darling Duckling. I'm going to color these, two of the flowers in that. And then I'm going to do a little bit of the Timid Tiger in the center of that flower. There we go. And then the Cloud Cover in these smaller ones. So it's like the marker is almost, it's like a lighter version of Lost Lagoon. Kind of nice. And then I had just taken, oh, what is this, like a 1/2 inch? Yeah, I just did a 1/2 inch circle punch. So my sun is the Darling Duckling cardstock. And we got a little bit of our sun. And then I have 2 of the little trees from the Scenic Adventure dies. So these are in the Cloud Cover cardstock. And I'm just going to stack these so they have a little bit of a dimension, because I didn't want to do a dimensional because I'm already popped up on that with the triangle piece. So this is just 2 layers stamped on, or glued together. Place that there. And then I will add a little bit of Wink of Stella on my sun, just to give it a little sparkle. And then we will glue this So this is from the Stylish Shape. So this is Lost Lagoon. It's a little bit bigger than my Stylish Shape circle. All right. And then this one I had done earlier, but I put a little bit of some gloss, or what do you want to call it? The liquid glue, kind of like the old glossy effects or something, or crystal effects. That's what we used to call it. But just to give it a little bit of shine. So that's kind of what I did. So that's what I want to use on this one. All right. And then this will get attached. And I do like to, so I'm going to fill in with my trees. And I'm wondering, I should probably do, since I did, I don't know if I want the Mossy Meadow as my trees, or I think I die cut. Did I have a bigger one? I may have just done it in the little trees. Oh wait, here they are. I thought I had done a Lost Lagoon. But I think that might get lost. Yeah, I think maybe we'll just do the green. I'll stick these behind, so I'm just going to glue these down really quick. Oops. And then I just kind of eyeball where I kind of want this. I'm looking for my pretty peacock. I thought, oh yeah, here we go. I thought I had some pretty peacock here. This is why I always do a lot of die cutting, so I have options. Yeah, and then this one I will pop up with the dimensional, and because it's going to be tucked behind, I'm not worried about, you know, the little trunk basically ripping off or anything. But I'm thinking I probably will need to trim this dimensional just because it's a little too big. So we'll just snip that off. Easier said than done. There we go. Okay. And then that's just kind of will be tucked behind here. All right, and then here, all I want to do is just put glue kind of basically in this section. I don't want to do another dimensional, at least on that top part. I will put some behind here, I'm thinking, but I can always just wedge these in once I get this down. That looks good. That's held up there pretty well, so I think that should be okay. Maybe it will. I'm going to put one right underneath here, just for support. Just to be on the safe side. Nothing worse than having a card fall apart when you give it to somebody. Or the mail carrier totally destroys your card. All right, now those pieces that we had trimmed off, I like to use those on the inside, so I am going to glue these, and I don't think I need to trim this one. No, that should fit on there. I mean, otherwise you can save this for a second card, but I kind of like to just use it on the inside to decorate. Totally optional. All right, and then I think I may do... Maybe we'll just leave it for now. I'm not quite sure what I want to do. All right, and that is the mini fan fold. Super fun. I just love, you know, I could spend hours just decorating, but look, no gems on this one, on there. But yeah, so that's kind of, that's it. I mean, it's such an easy fold, and there's just so many different ways that you can, you know, decorate it and use different papers and everything. It can be a masculine card, you know, it can be something fun. Purple, love it. So anyway, thanks again for joining me today. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet for my next fun fold. I may do a technique. I feel like there's some embossing folder techniques that I kind of want to try out and stuff. But anyway, if there is something particular that you would like me to demo, drop me a comment. I appreciate your support, and have a great and creative day, and I will stamp again with you soon. Bye-bye.